I'm David Umphlett, and I am thrilled to be called to be the new rector here at Holy Trinity Church. I grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina. I grew up in the Episcopal Church, and church life was all-consuming for us. We were part of everything that the church had to offer. We were there for every Wednesday night event, for every Sunday morning event, for every yard sale that there was, for every church cleanup that there was. So the church was really our world of friends and activity. And so I had the great opportunity of having a church community that was able to do what it promised to do at my baptism, which was to help raise me in the faith, because my family took so seriously being a part of that community. And so that was a tremendous gift, and something that I hope that we're able to teach and offer our own children. Grew up in Wilmington, went to UNC Chapel Hill, studied music performance there. I had been a musician my whole life. I grew up in a boy choir and was a percussionist growing up, and took piano my whole life, but studied percussion performance at Chapel Hill, and that's where I met Lorinda. We were all in the same friend group. Lorinda, who is my wife now, but we didn't date when we were undergraduates, because that would have been too convenient and easy, right? During the university time, I thought I was going to be a physician. I took all the pre-med courses and took the MCAT to apply, but never sent off the scores, because I realized I didn't really want to go to medical school. And I was hearing something else, a different direction being called in my life. And so I entered in the discernment process in the Diocese of East Carolina, which is where I was raised, and was approved for postulancy, which is the first step, but said I wanted to take a break before going to seminary. So after I finished in Chapel Hill, I went up to Capitol Hill, and a buddy had gotten an apartment and said, "You want to move in with me?" And I said, "Sure." So I took the first job I got, interviewed 10 different places one day, and literally took the first job that someone offered me. And that was a wonderful experience. I worked for the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House, and I did a whole lot of grunt work there. And the best part was I would call my friends and family and say, "Turn on C-SPAN," and then I'd walk out on the dais behind the congressman and pour a cup of water or something like that, and then run back into the office and say, "Did you see me? Did you see me?" And so that was a lot of fun. Working on Capitol Hill was especially informative for me. I knew I was going to seminary, but being in such a stridently partisan environment was incredibly formative for me in learning who I am and who I am not, and who I want to be, and how I want to function in conversation with other people, and how I do not want to do that. So even though I had nothing to do with what I was going to do next, it was great. The chief of staff said, "Are you sure you want to go into church? Because church politics are way worse than anything you're going to see here on Capitol Hill," which was good advice, wise advice from a churchman himself. Then I applied to seminaries that year, knowing that I'd be heading off. And so I just ended up going to Virginia Seminary, which was just around the corner from where I was already living in Alexandria. And my girlfriend at the time, Lorinda, and I had started dating after college. Moved up, and she had an apartment nearby, and she worked in the city. And so we had 3 wonderful years in Alexandria and Washington, D.C., and did as much as we could, took advantage of life in the city as much as we could. I did training at a church called Christ Church Georgetown, but they were paired with a church in Anacostia. So if you know anything about Washington, D.C., neighborhoods and segments, Georgetown is the Tony neighborhood, and Anacostia is the historically African American neighborhood from which there was a tremendous amount of flight during the 60s and 70s, which has left Anacostia, it's bounced back tremendously, especially in the last decade and a half, but depressed in all kinds of ways. So it was a great experience to go back and forth between those two places doing my field education, between St. Philip's and Anacostia and Christ Church in Georgetown. Lorinda and I got married after my second year of seminary, and so we were married for that final year. And then the Bishop of East Carolina handed me a cocktail napkin across the table in the refectory in Alexandria with a map to Plymouth, North Carolina. And so we moved to Plymouth, which was a wonderful, warm, rich experience. Those first 5 years of people who just took us in under their wings and taught me how to be a priest, and loved us and were kind to us and allowed us to try and experiment and do all sorts of things, crazy things now that I'm sure they look back on them.